Hello.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the 180 podcast. My name is Ellie.
And my name is Tara.
Welcome. If you're joining us for the first time, please go ahead and check out our website, 180movement.org. And please check out our other socials. So we have Instagram at 180.shift, TikTok and Twitter, 180shift, Facebook, Tara, letter N, and then Ellie. Of course, if you're on YouTube or if you aren't, it's Shift 180. And just a couple of updates. I don't know if you heard, Tara, but we passed over 6,000 followers on Instagram.
Ooh,
yeah,
nice.
We're actually, it actually bumped up too within just a couple days to 6,700. So we're making some progress.
Praise God.
Yes. And then on TikTok, we are over 30,000 followers. So that's crazy. We're doing a lot of movement there.
And thank you to everyone who tunes in to our videos and our journey with everything that we're doing with initiating this conversation.
Yes, we're so thankful for all of you. And if you haven't already, please make sure that your family and friends follow us there. Your support is very much appreciated. And I think with that, we can get into our guest today. We have two guests. We have a returning guest, and then we have a new guest on today. But I would like both of you just to give you your names and just a quick little history because we'll get into it a little later.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Okay. My name is Jerry Salas. I'm been and is the lead singer with the group El Chicano since 1973.
Wow.
And we're still touring.
That's great.
Wow, fantastic.
And then Betty.
Jerry just wears so many hats. He's such a humble guy, you know. He's got a lot to say. So this is Benny Bernal, once again, Triple B, coming at you guys. And Jerry's actually my co-founder for Chi Americanos. So it's an organization that we started some time back, and we've been talking about the right time, God's time, to be able to come out publicly. So we chose GenZ 180 Shift to do this because we've been following the work that you ladies have been doing. We see that you understand, I think, something that's not about party, it's about the issues. And you guys are starting a great conversation amongst all perspectives. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really helping this country. It's definitely helping the city of LA. So thank you, ladies, for what you do. We appreciate you.
Yes, well, thank you so much.
Thank you, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for joining
us.
And to be able to talk to us. I'm not sure if we just lost signal. Think we can still keep on talking. I'm not sure. Hopefully we're still live.
But you know what? Either way, though, I still think it's very interesting to just hear about your perspective.
Well, just really quickly. So everybody knows, and hopefully we're still live. We're going to be going over a little bit of both of your guys' history, and primarily Jerry. We're going to be talking about Chicano movement, LA politics, all Chicano stuff. We're going to be talking about, I think we're going to be mentioning a little bit about COVID and some stuff that's been happening, but also some reactions to what Carlos Santana said. So we're going to be talking about a variety of topics, but those are just a few we're going to be talking about today. But
yeah. So do you want to start off with just, some of your story, your perspective, and just tell us about yourself. Yeah. Your history and...
Sure, yeah. I grew up in Los Angeles. I was born in Oxnard, California. Moved to L.A., Atwater Village, actually. When I was 2, my parents moved down there. And so I grew up in that neighborhood. Middle-class neighborhood. My dad was a truck driver. Mom was a stay-at-home mom at that time. And my dad was a guitar player, singer. And he taught me and my older brother, his name was Curly, because he had really curly hair. And he was a great guitar player, but he was 12 years older than myself. So by the time I learned how to play and sing as well as I should at that point, which I was about 15, we both started doing nightclubs together.
Wow.
My parents allowed it because he was my older brother and 12 years older, and supposedly he was going to mentor me and take care of me, right? It was an interesting time in the 60s. I'm talking 1966.
Wow. Yeah.
So, we were playing every weekend, and I was loving it. Playing in nightclubs. I had a fake ID. It said I was 18. So
don't repeat that.
Yeah. You kids don't do that. But anyway, that's my initial background to music. And then, of course, I got drafted. I went to Vietnam.
Wow.
And I drove a tank.
Wow.
I was 19 years old. driving a 26-ton tank. Wow. And I did that for the first 5 months, I think it was, that I was there. And then I got heard singing at a hooch party because I used to carry around my little cheap wooden Japanese guitar and sing at all the hooches, just partying, right? And an officer heard me singing, and the next day I got put into special services, and they flew me all over Vietnam just entertaining the troops for the last 3-4 months that I was there.
Wow.
Wow.
Good experience. Yeah.
Let me tell
That's
you,
very good.
might have saved my life. Who knows, because, this was a combat unit that I was in. And,
yeah.
So it was kind of good getting out of the bush.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that Vietnam is definitely, there's a lot of mixed opinions on that too.
Of course.
But how did that shape, I guess, your outlook coming out of war and coming back? Mm-hmm. Just want to know. Yeah.
It was soul searching, definitely brought me closer to the Lord every day though that I was there, because from that moment on and the rest of my life, I always woke up saying, woohoo, I got another day. Thank you, Lord.
Yeah. It's a thankfulness.
It's a thankfulness, and especially if you're in a war zone.
Oh,
man.
So it just starts my day in a positive way, to just wake up and just be thankful first off.
Yeah. Absolutely. Not a lot of young men are faced with that, so
that's right.
Take it for granted. Take our life for granted.
There you go.
Well, Jerry, I have a follow-up on the question, because you mentioned that you were sent out to kind of play for the troops. What did you see in their eyes? Was there something how was the impact on them during them times?
It was really, really joyful in that initially when I went, they put me in a country western band, and I really didn't get along with the lead guy. This guy was just so bad. He was terrible. And I just didn't like it. I love country music, don't get me wrong. But I just went to the colonel who was running the thing and said, listen, this isn't working out for me. I said, but I'll tell you what I think. I have an idea. And he goes, what's that? I said, how about you just send me and my bass player friend, Steve, who I brought with me, to all the bases that they don't get music. You can just fly us in. I can do shows out there. And not all of them are going to want to hear country music only. And I played everything.
Yeah.
Soul, pop, rock, didn't matter, And I think it would be a great thing for the troops that are out in the bush more, because that's where I came from. Mm-hmm. And he said, that's a great idea, And it became a reality, Every day they'd show me where I needed to be at the chopper pad at a specific time. They load us up, the two of us, and fly us to a new camp. And we'd put on a show for like an hour and a half. Just an acoustic guitar and a bass and me singing.
That's awesome.
No, we rocked it, and they loved it. And guess what the favorite song that I always finished with I Want to Go Home. And they would all be singing it with me, of course,
Oh, my goodness. Wow. That's so proud. So what happened when you did go home?
When I came home, it was surreal, because you got to remember back in like World War I, World War II, Korean War, whatever, they came home on boats.
Yeah.
And they got time to kind of decompress, so to speak.
Yeah.
And when you leave Vietnam, you're on a plane. Boom, the next day you're in San Francisco. So you come from a jungle being shot at for a year and blah, blah, blah. And now you're walking around San Francisco, and it's just
day in the life.
It was bizarre, to say the least. It was bizarre change,
Yeah,
but some guys couldn't really deal with the mentality of it, because it's brutal. War is brutal. It's not a romantic thing.
Yeah.
And when the first time you see a dead body and you're getting shot at, you grow up real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in that respect, it really taught me what life is all about. How precious our lives are.
Absolutely.
And you start treating people with that. I did anyway.
Yeah.
But some guys, we were not emotionally mature enough to handle it, to be quite honest with you. And I saw people fold under fire and crawl and be in the fetal position, just not wanting to, they couldn't deal with it, and they would have to ship them out and stuff. But when you get home, especially at that time, they were not treating the Vietnam veterans very well when we came home.
Yeah. I was going to bring that up. And a lot of Vietnam veterans, ended up on drugs or homeless. And
exactly.
And what happened with you? Like, what happened in your career after that?
Well, the great thing about my move was I got home, and not even a week after being home, I was standing out in the front lawn just looking at my neighborhood again. And a friend of mine drove by who was a keyboard player friend of mine. And he stopped the car and he said, "Jerry, you're back. Are you out?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm back. I'm out." He goes, "You ready to gig?" I said, "Yeah, of course I am." He goes, "Jump in. I want you to meet my manager." So we go and we meet this manager. And he says, "We got to build a band around this guy. He can sing, blah, blah, blah." And he goes, and this guy was a grump, man. He just looked at me and he goes, "So you're a singer, huh?" I go, "Yeah, well, yeah." He says, he sits back and he goes, "Sing." Like that to me.
Oh, would you?
And I got an attitude right off. And I said, "So, okay." And I sang, "A Change Is Gonna Come."
Yeah.
Sam Cooke. Blew him away. And he goes, "Okay, let's start a band." So put us to work. And it just so happened that he also managed El Chicano.
So that's how you got
So you got connected with that. Yeah, and just, talking about your career, you've had some pretty cool, like you were telling some stories. Do you have any cool stories from life in music? Right?
Oh, let's see. Let me find a clean one. No.
The top 3.
Oh, it was amazing at that time because we're talking now the 70s, okay?
Yeah.
I joined them in 72, I think it was, as soon as I got out of the Army. And I did 5 albums with them until 78, I believe. So every album was a tour. Every album you go out and promote.
Yeah.
You do the TV shows, I was so blessed, man. And the thing about it, though, we were talking earlier about what your love is, what you want to do, what you and that has always been my goal. And here I was on American Bandstand, Midnight Special, doing all the TV shows. And the interesting thing was that I knew I was going to be there. All my life I knew I was going to do it. And you got to have that positive attitude. And hopefully you have the talent to back it up.
Yeah.
And thank God, and God did give me that talent to do that. And I am so thankful and blessed because of that. So, and you got to realize that too. You can't just, hey, I'm supposed to be here.
No.
Well,
chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, it's silly, So I just was blessed my whole life and got to tour with everybody from Michael Jackson, Earth, Wind and Fire, Light Orchestra, ZZ Top. I can go on and on. Jose Feliciano, Santana.
Yeah.
I've toured with all of them.
Wow.
Yeah, and I guess being in that the music industry, that's pretty interesting. I mean, especially today, right? We're seeing. I guess we can jump into Carlos Santana real quick, but talk about what was your reaction to him? I guess he said some very truthful statements, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he he sort of, I guess, went back on them or caved. He caved to what he was saying. So I want to know, because obviously you are you speak out about what you believe, and some people just don't do that. They do it and then they kind of cave in. So just want to know your thoughts on that and why people do that.
If you're into the Hollywood entertainment business, they are so jaded and they are so. And I got to say it, a lot of them, I'm not going to say every one of them, because there are people who are coming out finally, and speaking truth, and morality and things that are right and just. And I applaud them because they get blackballed. Mm-hmm. At my life and right now, I'm 72 years old. I've done everything. I'm not done yet, but guess what? Excuse me. I'm not going to go back on my morals. I'm not going to go back on things that are right.
That's right.
I'm not going to cave because a publicist tells me to. And that's the thing. And I don't know who or what made him do that. But if you remember, was it Ice Cube or
Yes.
Ice Cube? He had his publicist put out a thing about the LGBT, blah, 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 blah. And he came out and made a video and said, no, that's not my reality. I have kids. I know what is right, what is true, what is. And so I really applauded him. Mm-hmm. And then Carlos did this. And I was just like, wow, really? This guy's he's such a superstar. He's got so much money. What does he care? Come on. Just be truthful, be honest, and I'm thinking, I haven't heard anything that it was somebody else who did it for him thus far. And it's been a few days, right? Mm-hmm. I haven't heard. So I got to think that is his decision that he did that. And don't do it. I mean, why are we bowing down to such a small percentage of our country? Because guess what? They're the loudest. Okay? That old saying, the squeaky wheel does get the, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, that's what they're doing. And a lot of them are getting paid to do it, too.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And all these rallies and blah, 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 they come in to disrupt. They're the same people that are going from rally to rally. They're getting paid to do these things, right?
Yeah.
And it's wrong. It's totally wrong. So I'm really, really hoping that come, I was going to say Judgment Day, but I wasn't going to say Judgment Day. Voting Day, that all of that is rectified somehow,
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Because what they're trying to do to our children right now is repulsive.
So bizarre.
It is just
unacceptable.
And guess what? They woke up the sleeping giant of the mama bears across this country.
That's right.
And they're coming out and speaking.
100%, yeah.
Oh, yeah. They messed up by, and so we're going to have to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Just talking about how you speak out, we've talked about the Chicano movement. Can you guys tell us about that?
Yeah, let me touch on that really quick because, that's why I met Jerry a few years ago. I've known of him pretty much since the band out Chicano, but we became really good friends and we talked about this Chi Americano group. And the reason why we started the Chi Americano group is because it's not about party for us. It's about the issues. It's about this country because this is our home. A lot of people, when they talk about the Chicano movement, they think it's just people with brown skin. No, the Chicano movement had every race that was involved. It was pretty much second, third generation immigrants that came into the United States who were looking to live the American dream. The hardworking people, the people who want to respect the rules, the people who want to learn the language, so on and so forth. And those are the things that started to change. So the Chi Americano group that we have, it's Republicans, Democrats, Independents, veterans, it's law enforcement, first responders, people who are willing to give up and sacrifice all that they have to protect this country. And it's sad to say, but this is the moment that we're living in. I have so much respect for Jerry because of his willingness to be able to stand up and speak. I mean, I don't have much to lose either. But like you said, you got to stand up. What was that phrase you said earlier? You have to stand up one day. You got to.
Yeah, you're going to have to. It was actually a Bob Dylan song when he became a Christian. Bob Dylan's Jewish, obviously, but there was a phase in his life where he really went total Christian and reading the Bible and the whole thing. And he wrote a song going, it might not be tomorrow, might not be today, it might be tomorrow, but one day you're going to have to serve somebody. It may be the devil, it may be the Lord, but guess what? There will be a time when you're going to have to serve somebody.
And that is so much truth. The reason why I wanted him to share that, because he's spending the night with me the last couple of nights. We're talking about past our history and stuff, and we were talking about a lot of this. And growing up as a young boy, 6 years old, working in the fields in Stockton, Loyola, and Modesto, picking cucumbers, there is an icon. There's a gentleman that we all looked up to.
Yeah.
You may know his name, Cesar Chavez, right? Somebody we always respected. Many people thought he was always a Republican. Although he was a Democrat, died as a Democrat, he was very conservative. If he was alive today, I guarantee you he would be a Republican. Jerry, would you touch a little bit about some of the things you did with Cesar Chavez?
Yeah. We were very involved in the strikes and everything Cesar was doing, and they reached out to us, and we did several fundraisers for the movement. And I always remember we were playing, I think it was Concord Pavilion up north, and it was the first one that we had done with Cesar, and it was sold out, packed. It was just a wonderful night, and in the dressing room, there's always a lot going on. It was a big dressing room. A lot of people were in there. Everybody was talking and, getting ready for the show. And all of a sudden, so I'm getting my guitar ready. And all of a sudden, it just got quiet. Like, everything just went, whoosh. And I was like, well, what's going on? And I looked up. And Cesar had just walked in the dressing room with his bodyguards, because, he was kind of a marked guy at that time.
Yes.
And he had to have security with him, right? But he brought this presence into the room that just quieted everybody. And it was kind of weird at first. But he was so cool. He walked right across the room, came over to us, sat down in front of us, and just looked at us and said, El Chicano, thank you guys for doing this for us, I really appreciate it. This shows me a lot about you guys. He was very thankful, And his presence, though, was so strong. It was like he was solid. You could tell.
Yeah.
He knew what he was doing, knew what he wanted to do, what he needed to do. And I saw that right away. And I thought, he's got a strong presence about him, And I think inside, and I noticed this with people who are with the Lord a lot. They carry themselves a different way.
Yeah.
They carry themselves with a light, with a vision, as far as I'm concerned. In fact, when I first became a Christian, I asked my pastor at the time, how do I spread this good news, And I mean, do I go out on the street? And, he said, Jerry, you're not going to get any conversions and screaming at people on a corner with a Bible in your hand. And I said, I kind of get turned off. And he goes, no. He says, immerse yourself in the Word and just be the light. Because people will ask, what does this guy have?
Yeah.
Why is he so humble? Why is he so happy? Why is he? You bring that light into the room, and people will ask, and they have. They ask, what do you got? And then give them the good news.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful. That's important, And so going back to your question, although we did not start the Chicano movement, and it depends on who you ask, because there's people who say they have different perspectives of what the Chicano movement really was. We have ours,
right.
And ours is hardworking people who love this country, want to fight and protect this country, But one of the reasons why we decided to come out and organize and create the Chiamericanos is because, let's go back 19 years ago when I was asked, I was a part of the Latino political machine, building the Latino political machine, because we always blamed, and forgive me for saying this, the white man for all the failures that were going on in our community. So I was like, well, why don't we build our own political machine? And that's when we started the Latino political machine with most of us that came out of San Fernando High School in the Northeast San Fernando Valley. But what happened was, after a few years and 5 issues that they wanted to cover: gang violence, teenage dropout, teenage pregnancy, illegal migration. Yes, even back then, the Democrats were against illegal migration, even like Cesar Chavez. It's funny that as we're talking about that, today, some of the people that stood with Cesar Chavez are trying to change that history. They're trying to say that he was in support of illegal immigration. No, he wasn't, because it was taken from the American dream of those of us that have already been here, that are working in the fields, that are getting paid half of what we deserve because of people coming into this country illegally, who are willing to come in temporarily for the summer, get the money, and then run back to their country. So it's affecting who? Us, the American people, the ones that are trying to live the American dream.
Right.
And that's why I have so much respect for Jerry, and I have so much respect for Cesar Chavez. It's like we realize that we have to now, because of what we're dealing with in this earth, in society, in reality, we have to expose what's really going on. And I tell people, just because there is a Latino in office and you are a Latino or Hispanic, however, whichever label you want, and most of them are Hispanics, I said, doesn't mean he's voting your values. Doesn't mean he's passing policies that support the family. So they're not doing that right now. You look at what's being taught in the schools, the indoctrination, so on and so forth. So these guys, on these 5 issues, in the gang violence, teenage dropout, teenage pregnancy, so on and so forth, they found ways to make money off of it. Yeah. So it became no longer trying to help our community, but it became exploiting the sufferings of our community. Yeah. Don't take my word for it. I tell people, don't take my word for that.
Look it up.
Look it up.
Look it up.
Look at the voting record. Yeah. Look at what they're doing. Follow the money. Look at the money that's being contributed to their campaigns. Follow it. Open your eyes, because at the end of the day, they're a part of this problem that is trying to destroy this country. Yeah. Our own Hispanic political leaders. And I call them political leaders. I don't call them elected officials, because an elected official when he gets voted in, he fights for the people that elected him into office.
Absolutely.
A politician cares about the pockets and cares about being reelected. What do you think about that, Jerry?
I agree. I totally agree. And getting back to the illegal situation that's going on, I really feel for the people who are trying to come in here legally,
Yes.
Yeah.
who are getting pushed to the side. Yes. My mother came from Mexico, and she had to wait from what, obviously it was before I was born, and do it the right way. And she did. She waited. She took the test. She became an American. She loved this country and learned everything she could about the country. And I feel these illegals that are just swarming now over the border, it's just almost like they're stepping on all these people's backs.
Yeah.
Like, get out of the way,
Yeah.
We're coming in and we're taken from this country. And that's all I see. I see a lot of that going on. They're getting more stuff than a ex-GI is getting.
Yeah.
How does that sound
Yeah.
right to you? Somebody who fought a war to keep this country what it should be and was, and yet all the illegals that are coming over are getting all the free stuff, man.
Yeah.
And they're bankrupting these sanctuary cities that they wanted to be, and now they're complaining, and wait a minute, that's your sanctuary city. You're getting not even a tenth of what's going on at the border.
Yeah.
In the cities in Texas and down there, and now they're complaining. Really?
Yeah.
And meanwhile, you still have the veterans who are living on the streets.
Right.
Yeah. Have no help.
Yeah. I know that a lot of organizations back, I guess in the 60s, I probably am getting a little wrong, but I know around that time period, a lot of those movements, like Cesar Chavez, were against illegal immigration, but also like the Black Power movement as well. I've been studying it currently in like just a history-wise, but that they actually they were against illegal immigration because it would hurt the blacks as well. Not only people who did come legally, but also black people and, all the, I guess, people that they were trying to fight for. But then they eventually agreed with it because they thought that it would bring more people on their side. So I guess constituents or something. I don't know, but
Also, the solutions they provide sometimes for some of these things are so ridiculous. Like we were talking about teen pregnancy. What's the solution that we've been given for that is abortion, which is like, that's hardly a solution, like you were saying, sanctioned cities, it didn't work. They present certain solutions and it's just like, this is not working.
And they don't want to look bad, so they double down.
Yeah.
Oh,
really?
No.
Are you kidding me?
Throw it in your face.
The pride?
Yeah, exactly.
I get it too. I get the pride hit. Okay, I used to be liberal. When you have that moment, like, wow, I was so wrong. It hits you right, like in the pride. It's just like, man, that's humiliating.
Yeah.
I was raised in the Democratic Party my whole life. My whole family was Democratic Party.
Same here.
Yeah.
And I went along, until something didn't feel
What
right.
broke you?
Yeah.
What broke you?
Oh.
Obama.
Wow.
Why Obama?
All the rhetoric, all the what I'm going to do never happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
as far as I'm concerned, he's the divider in chief.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is when this country.
A lot of people, I guess, say Trump is a divider, but Obama.
Oh my God! Are
Definitely
you
did a lot
kidding
of
me?
that.
Yeah.
Obama took the time to make sure that not only his administration was there, he was there when he saw the race between the African Americans, everything's going. He wanted to partake in that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm going to be a part of this and be a part of this movement. It's like, that's not, you're the president of the United States. You represent everybody.
Oh,
Yeah.
You represent everybody at this time. So
yeah, and I was 8 years old when he was in office, and I remember like I was in third grade, and it was a really big deal. Everyone was talking about it, and it was just like, I felt like a lot of unity. And I had people in my class. I mean, I'm more like, I look more white, but I'm half Hispanic. But there were black kids in my class and white kids in my class, and it was like everything was cool, everything was fine. But a few years later, into middle school and high school, suddenly there was this tone of like
separation,
segregation,
Yeah.
and it was like, what?
Yeah.
We had Obama. Don't you guys remember that? And I guess that, I can even hear a leftist calling me racist right now.
Yeah, and
I can hear someone calling me racist right now for you saying that.
Yeah, and this isn't about party, this is not something we're talking about party.
No,
with
you're
the
right,
party.
you're right,
This is
yeah.
just talking about the things that we live.
I'm a little
Right.
traumatized.
What they did, what each person actually did, and what they didn't
Exactly.
do.
Yeah, and I guess
Their
my point
actions.
is, I can't believe it got more racist.
Yeah.
It got more racist.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, nobody wants to be racist, you know?
Yeah.
I wanted
no
to
one
go
in the
back-
right mind.
I wanted to go back to your question because you
yeah.
were talking about, the impact that it's having on the African American community,
Yeah.
so on and so forth,
I-
the Cesar Chavez. So I'll give you an example. As you guys know, I was a union vice president, elected by the members, not appointed. Because a lot of the people that were in my position get appointed by the international because they're puppets with strings. I was not one of those. I represented SEIU Local 99 classified employees. Well, right now, we as Chicanos, we love to use our hands. We're artists. We're hard workers. Not all of us are looking to go have a career, a 4-year career in college. We want to be craftsmen. We want to be construction. We want to be plumbers. We want to build homes. Well, today you have Local 300 and Local 661, carpenters, and you have the labor workers.
Yeah.
These unions, I just got off a call. There's a few calls that I had over the past few weeks who are union members, who have been union members for years. These are third and fourth generation Chicanos who have been making a living, providing for their families, doing these jobs. Now they're having to take temporary jobs for a week, take another week off, do another job for 2 weeks, take 3 weeks off. Why? Because these unions are now hiring, guess what? Illegal immigrants,
Yeah.
paying them under the table.
Wow.
And so this is why we are so upset. And this is why we figured, because we don't do this out of anger. We just said there comes a time, God has an anointed time for everybody, an appointed time for us to get up and speak.
Yeah.
And this is why we're here today. And this is why we chose, the GenZ 180 podcast to do this. Because you ladies, you're talking about the real issues.
Yeah.
And we respect that. And we look at a lot of your comments. Not everybody does, but 95% of the people that are following you guys have nothing but great things to say. You started a conversation amongst all races, I think you guys are in 6 countries now. I was following some of that. It's amazing. So keep doing what you're doing because it takes people like us. And when you have somebody like Jerry Salas, he's going to have something coming out pretty soon. I don't know if he's going to talk about it today, but there is something coming out that is going to change this world. I guarantee you.
Absolutely.
It's going to change it. You'll be hearing about it really soon.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I know that I do have a question regarding, I guess, sorry, about the Black Power movement, because I was researching a lot of the Chicano movement, and there's a lot of I guess you could say mixed history with it. There's a lot of, I was researching it, and most of it seems very, I guess you would call today, very left-leaning. And it did have, according to what I was reading, strong ties with the Black Power movement, which is very a racist movement and left-leaning or liberal. So I just want to know, how you can, reconcile or even just want to associate yourself with that name, Chicano. So that's a pretty interesting question that I had.
Very interesting question, and I'm glad you asked that question. See, 30 years ago, when we were more involved, 40 years ago, more involved with the Chicano movement, there were a lot of issues that we were dealing with. There was a lot of things that this country had to fix.
Yeah.
Guess what the country did? They heard us. They listened to us. They listened to Jerry and other people like Jerry. The changes have been made. But you have people today who want to remain relevant because they're the professors in the universities, they're the politicians, they're the nonprofit organizations that are getting all this government money and doing what with it? Destroying our country. They don't care about this country. These are the people who are out here to try to destroy us, So, like I said, Jerry is, for him to be here today, I can't thank the Lord enough. We knew there was going to be a time for us to get out and speak, and this is it. But going back to that question, there is just people who want to change history. You're absolutely right. If you read the history of the Chicano movement today, go back and find the books back earlier written. Talk to the people like Jerry, myself, and others who are a little older, who are part of the original founders of the Chicano movement. And you're going to see that they won't agree with what's being taught today.
Yeah.
They're trying to change the mindset of the younger generations. That's why your Gen Z 180 Shift podcast is so important.
You know, speaking of just younger generations, I think there's a lot of ignorance about stuff like how this country was even built. You know, like
Yes.
I happen to be in my schooling. I was taught a lot about the Federalist Papers. I was actually made to read them, and I think that there was a lot of conversations amongst like, you know, what is now like Gen Z. These guys were like 25 years old, right? Talking about how this country was going to be run, and part of that was, you know, the Electoral College and stuff. And even my mother-in-law was asking me if I knew what that was, and I was like, oh, I know what that is. Yeah. But you know, we were speaking about that before the podcast. And you were saying, you want to share what you were saying?
I mean, at the end of the day, although it matters, it really doesn't matter until we fix the integrity that's going on in the elections. Until that is addressed,
You got that.
how do we? But the question is, how do we fix it? You know, when we started the mail-in ballots that were coming in, and I will say this because this is going back a little over 20 years ago, when we were starting the Latino political machine. A few years after having these people elected into office, what I started to realize is they were building a database of people that have passed away, and guess who was getting that ballot?
Dead people.
Their party, yeah. Dead people were voting.
Oh my God.
So when I became aware of that,
That's
I was
almost
like,
unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you doing? You know, what is this really all about? I was upset. And that's why a couple years, not even a couple years, a few months after that is when I walked away from the group, because it's like, I'm not about this. I'm not trying to destroy this country. I'm trying to give everybody a fair opportunity to live the American dream, no matter of where they come from. You
Absolutely,
know,
yeah.
so but respect our values, respect what America stands for, because that's what we do, and that's why we're here.
So would you say that the main issue of the Chicano movement is probably what?
Well, it used to be a lot of issues in dealing with the working class, fair opportunities, wages, so on and so forth. Honestly, are we still dealing with all of that? I mean, you have Alex Padilla, who's a senator. You have Cárdenas, others who are congressmen. You have people of influence who are Hispanics who are now in some of the most powerful positions. Yeah. But shame on them. Shame on them. And I'm speaking as a Chicano. I'm speaking as somebody who grew up with these guys, who saw them. They sold their souls. They sold their souls for what? For money and power. And I challenge them to an open town. I will have an open town hall sitting with Alex Padilla, Tony Cárdenas, all the rest of them. Let's talk about the past. Let's talk about the history. Let's talk about why we started this Latino political machine. Follow the money.
Follow the money.
Always
follow the money.
Yeah, look at my bank account. You're not going to find much.
And that was kind of the conclusion that my mother-in-law said was the Electoral College, there's so much corruption right now, election fraud, everything like that, and just corruption that it's starting to not even matter what this country was built on. We're forgetting our roots.
You're absolutely right. You have to go back to voter ID. I mean,
of course you do.
There's nothing racist about that. Voter ID is what's needed. Go ahead, Jerry.
Just irritates me to the core why somebody would not want a voter ID.
Right.
What is the problem with that? Are you not an American?
Well, they call it racist.
Then guess what? You can't vote then. You know? Well, that's their R word is their go-to word.
Yes.
For anything. And I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
I am sick of it.
Yeah.
We all are.
We have become, because of the alphabet media,
Yes.
that's what I call them, the alphabet media, who perpetuate so much lies onto the people.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Why? Well, guess what though? Their ratings are tanking. Big time.
Yeah.
And podcasts like this, Rogan, I can go on and on.
I always think of Rogan.
that are telling you what's really going on.
That's right.
People are finally opening their eyes and ears.
Yeah.
That's right.
And saying, wait a minute, that didn't sound right. That's not what's going on.
And then you're like opening up this can of worm on social media that's just like saying stuff like, Michelle Obama is truly a man. Like that's how traumatized they feel about being lied to.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know.
Unbelievable. And all the things that have come out with the DOJ, the CIA, the FBI.
Under Biden.
And what they did for Biden to get him elected was shameful. It was that to me, and anybody who looks at all of that, that is voter, guess what? Influenced, would you say? Come on. At least to the least,
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. That has to be revamped. Just like they tried to reimagine the police force. Well, guess what? You got that crime now because you wanted to defund the police.
Yeah, right.
And now you're living in squalor. And now there's nothing but crime. You can't even walk the streets in some of these cities.
Right.
And guess what? They're still doubling down
Yeah.
to the detriment of their people. And I thought it was all about the people.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
obviously it isn't. There's another agenda going on.
Yeah.
So much for we the people, right?
So much for that.
Yeah.
I kind of have a. Oh, you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, sometimes you do this 180 shift thing where it's like, okay, so we talked about illegal immigration and why not just get the paperwork and why making it more complicated, and then instead of solving it, having these dismissive things. Well, my father-in-law was actually deported when my husband was 12. We hadn't seen him in, oh my goodness, almost 12 years, I think. And it's just like he was a Democrat, and I don't know why he's still so Democrat. He's like, he'll email us because that's the only way we can talk to him is email. He's in the Philippines, and it's like he just tells us like, stay Democrat, vote Democratic policies. But Obama was in office when he got deported, and
Well,
How'd that work out?
Yeah. And here's the interesting thing. You got to think about it. The only way you change that issue is you have to have the support of the House, the Senate, and the President. Now, this goes back to both parties. Both parties have had control of all three.
Yeah.
Did they change the policies? But there was one man who did, and I won't mention his name because it's going to be all coming out. One man who was willing to do it, who put the plan on the table.
I'm curious about his name now.
Wow, it was Trump. It was Trump. Yeah,
oh,
Trump
whoa.
was the one who was saying, "Okay, enough is enough. Here it is. Let's talk about the solution. This is a solution. It wasn't perfect, but it was in the right direction."
What was it?
And well, he was talking about those of the because they were talking about those illegals that are currently in the country right now.
Mm-hmm.
How do we find them? How do we identify them? Find them? How do we give them citizenship? Then you're talking about if you've been in this country for 5 years or more, having to commit a crime, you're getting your right to become a citizen of the United States.
Yeah.
Then you have the Dreamers. The Dreamers, the left was talking about, there was one side of the political arena that was pretty much pushing for the Dreamers, and they're talking about a certain number, and Trump says no. You have to raise that number because you're forgetting the kids that this was initially written for. But nobody talks about that. And I was still a Democrat back then running for Congress against Tony Cardenas to expose all the corruption, trying to address these issues, to wake people up. Don't look at party.
No.
Don't look at the person, the color of their skin. Don't worry about so much about the mouth, the words that come out of their mouth, because how many presidents have said, I'm going to do A, B, C, and D and do absolutely nothing? Look at their voting record. Look at what they've done for you. That they put more money in your pocket. Was gas less? Was food less? Was gas bill less? Was the economy better?
Were we safer?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like with Trump, the people just say, "Well, look at the wall."
Well, with the wall. Okay,
Look at the wall.
Yeah.
Build it.
Yeah. What part of the wall? There's a lot of sections that are missing.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something, because you're on that. Let me talk about that. When I was running for Congress in 2016 as a Democrat, I had a father who came up to me. I spoke to a large group of Salvadorians and Guatemalans, and this man from Guatemala comes up to me. He says, Benito, can I talk to you? I said, sure. He says, I want to tell you about the issue with the wall and why it needs to be built. He goes, I paid $5,000 for me, $5,000 for my wife, $5,000 for my 4-year-old and my 5-year-old daughters. He says, we came to Tijuana. When we got to Tijuana, TJ, he says, they separated the men, put them in vans, separate vans, the women and children put them in separate vans, and they took off. She says, then the men, he goes, as a man, he goes, they gave me a backpack that was filled with drugs. They gave me a phone number. They said, you're going to take these drugs across the border. When you get these drugs across the border, call this number, you get your family back. Now, here's a father who's got a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old and his wife. Do you think he's going to take them drugs across the border?
Yeah.
Absolutely, because he has to try to protect his family. He did that. He was in tears. He couldn't even finish a story. He goes, Benny, I haven't seen my family.
Oh my.
He goes, they took my children.
There you
They
go.
took my wife.
Wow.
He goes, and I've never seen them again. He goes, so please speak about this issue. Don't let people use fear and intimidation. And that was, I know, God that sent that man to speak to me, because that's when I became more outspoken. And Tony Cardenas even put out a hit piece on me on that. And I was thankful, because I'm like, why would you put out that hit piece? It's actually what I wanted to say.
When
But
did that happen?
that was in 2016 when I was running for office.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That
And
happened to him in 2016.
No, that happened to him 3 years before that.
So
that was probably
2013.
So can
yeah,
you
like in
imagine
13.
what's going on now
Yeah.
Yeah.
with the 2.5 million that have been let into the country now? How many of them have that same story?
Yeah.
You know,
It's just the Wild
Yeah.
West down there.
it is.
Is that and that's
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
that's why you're saying the wall is the
Yeah.
wall is good, right?
Hey, but you know what? Our vice president, the border czar, will take care of it, right? Give me a
Yeah.
Well, she needs to make a trip there first.
Give me a break.
Well, I will tell you something interesting. My father-in-law, the one thing he did say is, he just said to my husband one time, "I should have just filed for citizenship."
Yeah.
There you go.
I'll tell you another quick story about some of my cousins who came over here illegally. Many of them became citizens, did it right. Some of the others, if you look at the birth certificate of their children, it says father unknown. Why? Because their wives are collecting money from the government off of the welfare system. If the
Yeah.
father's name is on there, then boom, they go after the father to get some of that money back. Think about that. And you know what? You know how I became aware of that? When I was a former school bus driver, I had a child, a young girl that was in middle school, and she was just broken. She wanted to commit suicide. And I could see it in you because you build a relationship with your students. And I'm like, Mija, what's wrong? She says, you know, Mr. B, because they call me Mr. B. She says, you know, I had to get some paperwork because I wanted, I want to be prepared when I'm going to college and in high school and so on and so forth. She goes, and I needed my birth certificate. She goes, when I saw the birth certificate, it said father and it said unknown. She goes, but my father lives at home with me. Why would they do that to me?
Wow.
No one talks about that.
yeah.
No one talks about
Yeah.
the impact and the effect that it has on these children whose parents are using them for what?
Yeah.
Yep.
Think about it.
No, I had a friend whose girlfriend was actually she was one of those kids who was like, it's a system. It's where your parent came across the country and had you here.
Is it the anchored babies?
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
like that.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was one of those, and she was put into a program, and she is super. She votes super democratically
Yeah,
and
I
stuff
know
like that
people, yeah.
because she's trying to say how awful that system was to her and how it needs to be improved and how there needs to be more resources put in for those kind of children because of all the suffering in her life. What would you say to someone like that?
You know, I think every you want to comment on that, Jerry?
Well, I think she's voting the wrong way. I mean, I'm sorry. It all comes down to what do you do, not what you say.
Yes.
And that, to me, and I will say it, Trump did everything he said he was going to do.
Yes.
And he was the first one that has done that in many presidencies.
Yep.
So, what has Biden done for illegal immigration other than bust down some of the wall?
Well, let's even beyond illegal immigration. Let's talk about something that's even more current. Let's talk about what's going on in Hawaii.
Okay.
I have family and
Oh,
friends.
well,
I
he
have
didn't.
I have family and friends.
It's
that
like
are-
a meme that he hasn't done anything about
family
that.
and friends that are living there. And what they're telling me is that some of these things, there's a lot of concerns. They're saying because the systems, or the warning systems, everything was shut down. The schools were closed purposely, is what they're believing, because
Yeah.
these people had to go to work, so their kids were left alone. What you're seeing on social media, not all of it is true, but the children that are still missing, that is the truth.
That's
This
crazy.
is coming from family and friends that live in the islands, and they're saying there were kids who were forced to be left at home who were burned alive.
That's
But there's still many that are missing. What is he doing about that? And I don't care whether
What is
he's
he
a
doing
Democrat.
about that?
That's what we're,
yeah.
He's
well,
telling
you know,
stories about how his kitchen got on fire one
That's
day.
yeah.
Are
Or
you
whatever.
kidding
So
me?
insensitive.
Yeah.
That's all he did.
That's it made it about himself, as he
that's
always
great.
does. So,
Ew.
yeah.
Yeah. And I remember he was even asked to comment on that separately at a separate occasion. He was saying no comment to that with a smile on his face, because
Exactly.
it's a joke to him. I
that was
think.
the first thing he said. Yeah, no
Yeah.
comment.
Yep.
Oh
It's
my
crazy. Now I
goodness.
kind of want to switch topics real quick to talk about what's happening in Chiapas, Mexico. There is something going on. It's a video that's been going around lately, and it's school children and parents who are burning textbooks that they claim have communism in it, and also things talking about the LGBTQ community. Now, I kind of want to touch base on the fact that inherently, I guess, Latinos and Hispanics, they don't support these things.
Absolutely.
Right. And I just want to get your both of your guys' input on that.
You're right. We don't. And you know what? A majority of black families don't either. They are very religious people as well, and they're not going for it either. And oh gosh, this.
Go ahead, brother. It's okay.
Man, to influence children that way, because let's face it, young minds are pliable. You know,
Yeah.
they are all the way up. Sometimes that part of the brain that gives you rationality and blah, 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 sometimes doesn't develop to in your early 20s.
Yeah.
Okay. I raised 2 girls. I'm telling you, it doesn't work. It does. It's so true, because guess what? My daughter, one of my daughters, who's like 30 now, she's 32, I think, something like that. But anyway, when she got about 26, I'm thinking, something like that, I get a call from her. Hey, Dad. I go, hi, baby. How you doing? She goes, I had to call you. And I go, well, what's wrong? Well, I have to tell you something. And I go, well, I'm thinking, oh my God, what's wrong? You know, what is that? She goes, I just have to tell you, I'm sorry. And I said, for what? She said, everything that I put you through as a teenager, as a young 20s, my early 20s.
Wow.
It like that portion of the brain clicked in, apparently. And she realized, you know, just what she had done and did. And for me, it was part of growing up, right?
Yeah.
But think about that. Now they're manipulating grammar school kids with this LGBT
QPIA,
whatever, you know, and
saying
CRT.
stuff like, and saying stuff like, if your mom doesn't support you in this, we will be your new mom.
Right.
And that kind of goes back to the question you initially asked. Why is that going on over there in Chiapas? You know, because as Hispanics, as Chicanos, our values, our moral values don't align with all of that stuff. You know, now, Jerry, you homeschooled your kids for a while. Tell us a little bit about that.
And I'm talking 30 years ago. I didn't like what was going on at that point with the bullying, mostly, you know, at that point. And I homeschooled them till they're in the 7th grade. And then they wanted to go to school. Well, Dad, I want to go to school. I want to go. And quite frankly, they were getting into subjects that I wasn't proficient in, okay? Even with the books that I had, you know, that I was teaching them. But they were doing so great. I figured they're ahead of the curve. They can zoom now past whatever the, you know, regular school is going to teach them. But it got really bad, you know, with the what they were teaching them, with the bullying, with everything, you know. They made it through and everything, but I wish I would have just done it all the way through, honestly.
Also, just quick thing to add to that is I you know, a while ago we had a guest, her name is Brianna, and she was telling me about how her parents, you know, when they got to that age, 11, 12, ready for middle school, their parents actually just got them to test out of middle school. So they surpassed it. And then they started high school as a dual enrollment program with the community college.
Wow.
So they ended up getting, you know, graduating high school with an associate's degree. And one of the, I know, it's amazing. So there are options out there, you know, and I think us as parents, you know, sometimes we feel trapped, like, okay, well, all I have is the public school or whatever, but it's not always like that. But hey, we are going to wrap up soon, but we want to hear a song.
That's so great to hear.
I know, isn't that amazing?
I do want to plug in real quick the CEO Act, so I know Benny's pulling that up real quick.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, the CEO Act.
Because you talked about options for parents and so on and so forth. So for those of you listeners, now, if you're tired of what's going on in the schools and you want something different, you want to take the money away from the unions, from those who are trying to indoctrinate your children, call this phone number, 323-417-4644. Once again, 323-417-4644. What that's going to do is going to put you automatically connect you into a database that, as we are moving forward with this initiative that we're going to have on the ballot in 2024, which we're hoping all of you support for, if you really want to change what's going on in the system, this is your opportunity. So call that number, get on board with the database. You'll start receiving all the notifications when the petitions are ready to be passed out and signatures have to be gathered. We're shooting for December. This is your opportunity. So you have an opportunity to make a difference.
Now, before we wrap up with the song, what is the future of the Chiamericano movement and what you guys are doing?
You know, in my opinion, it's and that's what I love about Jerry and I as both co-founders is we're people of faith. No, we don't walk on water. No, we're not perfect. But when it comes to God, when it comes to the values, our morals, when it comes to the love of this country, we're going to do whatever it takes to stand up and fight for this country. And we do mean whatever it takes. We have people that are prepared to stand and fight for this country because we see our American dream being stripped away, not only from us, but from our children. My children would be, let me see, we're second, fourth generation Americans, right, of Mexican descent. My children don't really speak Spanish. Now, they're paying the price for that. Why? Why aren't people who are coming into this country, why aren't they learning the language of this country? Why are my children now having to pay the price for this? So there's a lot that's been going on that we're just sick and tired of it. And at the end of the day, we got to fight and stand. We got to stand and fight for this country.
Yeah.
Amen.
Thanks so much, yeah.
Jerry, you got anything else to add to that?
Amazing.
No, I totally agree. You can't be passive at this point.
Yeah.
There's a way to do things right, and let's do it. Let's do it. Because he's right. They're coming after the kids for a reason.
Yeah.
Because that's going to change the
creepy.
future.
Why do they have to do that?
And when people ask me, "Oh, Jerry, why do you speak out so much? You're a musician. Aren't you afraid?" Blah blah blah. I said, you know what? I'll lose libtard friends as quickly as I possibly can to protect my grandchildren and children's future. That's the way I feel.
That's right.
And if they don't like that, well, I'll pray for you.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Yeah.
And I know, Jerry, you were going to share a special song with us, right?
Yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit about that song?
Yeah. I wrote this song for my wife who passed in early 2001, and she died of breast cancer. And on her deathbed, we had already talked about me doing a CD. And she looked at me and she said, "You better do that CD." I said, "You got that, baby. I'm gonna." And she goes, and she looked back and she goes, "And it better not be a downer." Poor thing. And so I wrote this song for her. Okay, and it's called "You Will Always Be Loved." Okay. See if I can play it here for you. May you never have to weep and wonder why time has taken the kiss, the one that made me sigh. Could not think of nothing I wouldn't try to do, to touch your hair, to watch you sleep. Baby, I'm a fool, but you will always be loved. We were just getting started, making our lifelong plans. Just when we thought we had it, fate, it took them away, but you will always be loved. You will always be loved. Be loved always.
Whew.
Wow.
Man,
Thank you so much.
that was deep, brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the short version.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was deep. Thank you for sharing
was
that, Jerry.
amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Made me think of my husband.
There you go. Music touches the soul.
Yes, it does.
Touches the
yes,
soul.
it does.
That was beautiful. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Well, that's why I just started the Rock for Vet program,
Yeah.
for the vets that needed some love, man, needed something to cherish, something to have fun with, something to
Yeah.
forget about the wars or whatever infirmities they have for themselves, So if people want to know more about it, you can go to musicistheremedy.org,
Yeah.
and they can learn all about the Rock for Vet program.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank
great.
you. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you,
Yeah.
ladies. Thank you once again for everything that you're doing. Please keep doing what you're doing. Know that when you get to the position where you're at, where you are now influencers, there are people who are following you. And just remember, you're here to serve one person. And who is that person?
That's God.
Amen.
God.
Just remember that.
There
My
you go.
book
Yeah.
flipped open over here, and I just want to share what it opened up to. It says, "If God is for us, who can be against us?" Romans 8:31.
Yep.
Amen.
Love that one.
Yeah, sounds a good
Amen.
one.
Well, why don't we end with the prayer? Who wants to end it with the prayer here?
Jerry,
I'll
Who's
go
the
too
prayer?
long.
you're our guest.
I will. Lord, we come to you today, and we're so thankful
Yes,
for that
Lord.
for this day, God. We're so thankful that we have youth that are looking into what's really going on in this world, Lord. They're bringing the word to you.
Yes.
We want to praise you. We love you. Bless our families wherever they are. And please, Lord, take care of our police and our vets wherever they are
Yes.
around the world. We love you. We revere you, Lord.
Yes. Lord.
And we thank you for all you've given us. In your precious name we pray.
Amen.
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 Amen. God bless America.
God bless
That's
you.
it.
Thank you, everyone,
Well,
for
thank you so
joining
much.
us. And
It's been a pleasure to have you both. So I
yes,
thank you very much.
thank you guys
Thank
so
you.
much. It was a really nice show tonight. And did we already do the shout outs for the
Which ones? The websites. Yeah. Yeah.
I must have zoned
So for those of
Oh.
you who haven't already, please check out our website 180movement.org, or you could do the simpler way, it's just 180shift.org. So
Yes.
Cool.
the
I
whole